Hello, screenwriters, and welcome to Writing for Screens. Today's episode 9 Neglected Movies. My name is Glenn Gers, and I am the Chief Operating Everything here at Writing for Screens, a channel that I have built to try to convey some of the skills and tools and insights that I had to figure out for myself in a 25-year career writing for TV and movies. On my way out of the business, I am trying to leave behind a little bit of this stuff in a form that might be useful to you. There is no system. There is no plan. I do not believe there is a right or wrong way to be creative. I believe that every artist must make their own path, which includes figuring out what kind of work they want to do, what kind of work they can do in their reality, how they work, who they are. All of that stuff is stuff you have to figure out for yourself because there are no rules. There is no formula. So in order to help you with that, I am going to show you some of the tools, the things I had to figure out for myself, little practical things, and I've put them into a set of videos. Here's a screen grab of my main channel page, because if you scroll down a bit, you will see 3 playlists. The top 3 playlists, the first 3 playlists as you scroll, are called Screenwriting Essentials, Screenwriting Tools, Skills, and Craft, and The Process, Being a Writer. These 3 playlists contain about 50 videos. Each one is about 10 minutes long. They are very, very practical. They are just full of tips and tools, things to try. See if they work for you. If they work for you, use them. If they don't throw them away. Keep them in your toolbox. I'm a big believer in knowing as many theories and ideas and ways to do things as you can, so that as you work, you find yourself trying different things because you have this big toolbox. So that's what I'm trying to offer you. Please look at these 50 videos. Each one has a big, bold, colorful word that tells you what it's about. The thumbnail and the title tell you it's about genre, it's about character, it's about dialogue, whatever it is. Please try to look at those, because anything you can learn from me is probably in there already. However, I also like to do these live streams every Wednesday at 1 p.m. if I can make it, Pacific Standard Time Zone, by the way. And that's what we're doing today. Today's topic is going to be 9 movies that I really love that nobody else seems to know about, so I thought I would give it a shot. Let's get right to it. A couple of hellos. Hello, Sonia. Hello, Pedro Santos. Hello, Tom Lewis. Good to see you. Hello, Pelicans. Nice to have you. Okay, let's get right to it, because there's a lot to talk about. I want to drop these things for you and then move on to questions if you have any, or talk about things you like. So let's talk about these 9 movies. I'm just going to go through them chronologically. These are not the greatest movies ever made. These are not important movies. I'm not going to analyze them or break them down for you. I'm just going to try and refer you to them because I think they're cool and nobody knows about them. Okay, now we're going to find out everybody knows about them. But hello, Ricky. Hello, Donna. So the first movie that I wanted to talk about is called Two for the Road, 1967, Stanley Donen directed, Audrey Hepburn, Albert Finney. It's just a terrific little romantic movie. It's been the ideas of it have been used since then, but this was a 1960s story about a marriage, and it's told in several different periods of their life, but they keep crossing back and forth. And the entire premise is that it's the periods in their life. They're British when they took trips to France. So the entire thing takes place in France on these 4 or 5 different trips they took during the course of their marriage. Starting from the first one where they met each other, to when they are have a child and they are frankly having some problems in their marriage. It tracks the course of their marriage, and the device is that they're in different cars every time in these road trips in France. And each of the cars, we see them literally passing the other car on the road. So they're passing themselves at different times. And so we keep moving back and forth and we're learning about them. The craftsmanship is remarkable. It's a very wonderful Hollywood style Audrey Hepburn, Albert Finney romance. There's comedy. It's just, I think, beautifully done. Is it dated? Sure. Are the relationship issues perhaps dated? Sure. But the craft and the artistry and the gorgeousness of the wit and humanity, it's just fabulous. So that's the first one, Two for the Road. And I'm going to quickly say hello to Thumper. And then Nathan Dean just watched Sorcerer for the first time. I think I mentioned that at some point. Yeah, that's another good one. It's not on this list, but it is. That's a great one. These are more obscure. Sorcerer, weirdly, is having a revival because a bunch of people have been referring to it as a classic, which it truly is. Hi, Norma. Yeah, it is. It's an interesting film. Okay. I just love it. Okay, let's move on to the second one, because I'm just going to try and drop all these then we can talk about whatever you like. The second one is called Slither. This is not the horror movie about creepy worm-like, snake-like things from the 80s or 90s. This is the 1973 small-time crime comedy caper thriller thing. It stars James Caan, Sally Kellerman, Peter Boyle, and Louise Lasser. It's a deeply, deeply 70s movie, and it's so little. It's just about this guy. He's just gotten out of prison for small-time crime, and he gets basically a tip from a guy who is murdered after he gives him this tip, saying, I have some information from the crime that I committed. He was an accountant. He embezzled some money. And he says, go to this guy. He has the other half of the information to where the money is. So the hero goes to meet this guy who's one has the name, one has the address. Together they can go get the money. So they go on a road trip together. Road trips, weirdly, a theme all of a sudden. The only thing I can say about this is an incredibly little movie. It's just a little story about these small-time crooks trying to make a small score in a crappy way, and it's delightfully quirky. It's truly, truly just the flavor, the texture, the smallness of it is delightful. It's just, I love it. It's one of the most influential movies in my life. I saw it in 1973. I guess I was, 14 or 15 years old. And it just blew me away. Because it was so believable. It was just so whacked out. These people are silly, and yet at the same time, they're very, very human. And I just loved it. Let me just briefly give a quick introductory survey as to what I like in all these movies, because I'm not going to teach from them. I'm not going to, analyze them and say, this is how you should do what they did. Just watch the movies. They're delightful to me. Most of them are from the 60s through the 80s, but there's a couple later ones. It's not basically because not that I think that 70s movies were better. They just happen to be personally revelations for me at the time they came out. What I like about them is basically the artsy art film 60s approach, but taken to much more narrative, accessible stories. The thing about 60s and 70s movies is very often they're so artsy, they're really, really boring. They may be cool, but they're boring. There's a reason that the 60s and 70s movies went out of fashion very quickly. But at the same time, the way that they approached stories and characters and filmmaking bled into these later films, which to me have much more interesting stories, strong genres, but at the same time, it's undercut or twisted in some way. Like in Slither, it's this crime film, but it's undercut by the quirky wackiness of the people and the incredible futility and smallness of their criminality. There's also almost always a a mixture of tones, a shifting of tones, the willingness to put some humor in something very dark or to put some darkness in something very romantic or light, often even messing with genres. A couple of these movies are essentially have musical numbers woven into the story without being musicals. Each one of them takes some kind of bend or twist to their genre while at the same time caring about supplying the genre kicks. And almost always there's something about the characters which is just not according to plan. So many movies now, they work so hard to make everything make sense, to make everything fit the story. And what I like about these is that they're willing to just throw stuff in because. Just silliness and darkness and weirdness. In Slither, one of these small-time criminals is simply obsessed with big band music, and he just loves old 40s swing band music. Stuff like that. It's just good stuff. Going to say a couple of quick hellos. Hi, Donna. Thank you so much. I hope so. Hello, Dialogue Craft. I also hope everyone is having an amazing day. Seems like Glenn, but the format of the live stream is suddenly like Tarantino's. You know, we do what we like. We try to express ourselves. It is indeed, this is unusual for me. I don't usually, get into stuff that I like, but I just thought, like I said, I've really taught everything I have to say, but these are movies that nobody knows. And I did want to try and just share them for the pure fun of sharing them. Hello, Doreen. Hello, A Link. Okay, so the next movie is called Oh Lucky Man. I've probably mentioned this one before. I may have mentioned a lot of these before. 1973 British movie. This is not actually the usual poster you're seeing, but I just love this poster. It's just so 1973. Everyone's going through changes is the slogan. This movie, what happened was this was a movie that Malcolm McDowell actually thought up. After Clockwork Orange, Malcolm McDowell was a huge, sudden young star, and he had the power, because of his stardom, to do something that he wanted to do. And what he wanted to do was take what you'd call an episodic life's journey story, which is sort of something that was common in 19th century and 18th century novels. The idea that you would follow someone through their life and adventures, Nicholas Nickleby, there's a bunch of Thackeray novels, and watch them go through different parts of society and different types of experience and different philosophical journeys. And the story is simply they are going on this journey. There's different areas that they go through, and then when they leave that area, very often it does not return, or when it returns, it's like a little callback. So that's what this is. It's about a guy who works for a coffee company, which is a colonial exploiter. And it's got this radically wild variations on tone and topics as this guy goes out on the road to sell coffee in England. And I'm, like I said, I'm not going to do spoilers on any of these. I'm just going to try and hook you in. But Oh Lucky Man, the other thing that's really cool about it is intercut with this story, there is a band, Alan Price, who was with the band The Animals, famous 1960s band. He was the keyboardist for The Animals, and then he went out on his own. He did this movie where he had his own band. He wrote songs for the movie, which were commenting on the movie. They're not like a musical. They're commenting on the topics of the movie. And the band is a character in the movie, but the songs being recorded about the movie are by the band in the movie, but they're not part of the story. And so you just intercut constantly these musical numbers and this band with this episodic story. It's remarkable. I think it's just delightful. Most people who have seen it will never forget it. Anyway, so oh wait, we've got Roberta says, "Please wear more purple. It looks nice on you." Thank you so much. I truly appreciate that. Um, I don't get the concept of episodic movies. Why not make a mini series instead of a movie if there are multiple stories through life? Well, um, uh, partly because in 1973 there were no mini series. They didn't have that concept yet. Second of all, sometimes you want to take the episodicness and compress it into a single unit. Instead of saying this is going to be as long as life, they're saying in the course of this movie, in the course of this condensed thing, I'm going to take you to lots of different places. It's not the only way to do it. Yeah, a miniseries would be great. I would love to see the Oh Lucky Man miniseries. But I do believe that it's also very possible to have to take a big story. Like sometimes there's an epic story which you want to have condensed into a single unit, into a single narrative, because it forces you to consider the shape of the story as a single thing instead of many units. I've got a thumbs down, but please let me know why you thumbs down if you did. Okay. And hello, Lake Filter. Let's go on to the next movie. Number 4 is called Report to the Commissioner, 1975. Here's one of the posters for it. Report to the Commissioner is a gritty crime drama from New York from the mid-70s. It's interesting because it is, once again, the tone varies all over the place. But one of the things that's most interesting is it was shot very much on the streets of New York in 1975, which at the time was a gritty, chaotic time in New York City history. And there had been a bunch of New York crime movies like Serpico, Dog Day Afternoon in that period. This one is it's based in a novel, and the screenwriters, Ernest Tidyman, who did Shaft, and Abby. What's Abby's last name? Abby Mann. They both are very socially conscious. They tried to do to try to talk about society in the course of their work, but at the same time, it's a story about a young, idealistic undercover cop who this was a big thing in the 1970s. The idea that there was a corrupt establishment and the young people were troubled by it. So this young cop is getting into the Times Square drug dealer criminality scene, and he falls in love with a young woman who is the lover of a drug dealer, a black drug dealer. The cop and the young woman are white, and it's told once again in fractured time. One of the things that all these movies are doing is trying to do something unusual within the standard. So you keep getting different points of view on this story as it unfolds. It unfolds in which they find the young woman dead, and the young woman turns out to also have been an undercover cop. So that's just the beginning of this remarkable story, which also features these really fabulous side characters in the Times Square world, one of which played by Richard Gere, young Richard Gere, one by young Bob Balaban. These are just phenomenal little quirky characters, and it's just great. It's just great. It's crazy. It has one of the most ridiculously cool chase scenes across the rooftops of Manhattan, which also goes into a department store, Saks Fifth Avenue. I don't want to give away too much, but I do want to say that it takes some unexpected turns, and it's for a low, grungy genre cop movie. It's really right on the verge of exploitation, and at the same time, it's deeply, passionately questioning society and the police. I love it. It's called Report to the Commissioner. Definitely check it out if you can. The next one, likewise, Juggernaut, 1974, is a thriller. Here's the poster, which will give you an idea of why it was weird. The poster, at the time, this was in the era of the disaster movie. And this is a story about a terrorist who has planted some bombs on a cruise ship. And so they tried to make it look like a disaster movie. They've got the ship here with the frog man and the explosion, and you've got the little square. I don't know if you can see, but the disaster movies tended to have large casts with interesting characters, and they would get big stars to do small parts, and then they would put them all on the poster in these little squares that you can see here on the let me see if I can enlarge this. Yeah. See there, you got like Richard Harris and Omar Sharif and David Hemmings and Anthony Hopkins. Anyway, so the thing is, it's not a disaster movie at all. It's a thriller. It's this amazing thriller about the tense hunt for the guy who has planted bombs on this cruise ship to extort money. It's a very, very simple plan, a very, very simple scheme. And what elevates it from just it's a fine thriller. It's a good thriller. But what's really cool is that it's directed by Richard Lester. Richard Lester did the two Beatles movies, the first two Beatles movies, Hard Day's Night and Help. Revolutionized filmmaking in many ways. Went on to revolutionize the historical epic with the Three Musketeers movies. Richard Lester is a remarkable filmmaker, and what he did was he would take these genre pieces, but then he would approach them in this weird 1960s style with a lot of very loose camera work. He would put multiple cameras on and do sort of a Robert Altman thing where he would shoot a lot of little detail stuff and cut it all in together to give a texture to the life and a sense of casualness and humor. So that what would ordinarily be just a thriller becomes this weird human drama with just superb performances and just a fabulous feel. It's just really, really good stuff. I truly love it. There's one scene in which Anthony Hopkins plays a policeman on shore who's trying to find the terrorist, and he goes to a prison to talk to a jailed IRA bombing terrorist, and says, like, can you help us? Do you know the signature of this bomber? This is the way he works. Can you give us any help? I don't want to spoil anything, but the scene it's just this one little scene with this fabulous British actors that is so deeply non-plot. It's so deeply just this sense of what the feelings are of these people. It's fantastic. Really, really love it. Then, next movie, we're leaping into the 80s with Missing. It's really weird that this movie is not better known. It was the first American film by Costa Gavras. Costa Gavras was a Greek or French political filmmaker. He made several political thrillers, the most famous of which was his Z. It was called Z. This is based on a true story about a young American who went missing during in a South American. There was a coup, a military takeover, and people were rounded up and disappeared. Jack Lemmon plays the father of this young man who goes missing in this country. Sissy Spacek is his girlfriend. Jack Lemmon is a very, very conservative, straight-laced, typical American guy, 1980s Reagan America, who goes down to this country with all of his American beliefs about what America can do, what Americans should get, what the world should be. And we watch, once again, in broken up time, but just fabulous texture and conviction, watch him have his understanding of the world shattered. It's stunning. I do not know why more people do not know about this movie. Fabulous thing. Then very, very, very different is 1987. Oh, sorry, 82 is wrong. 1987 movie Slam Dance. Here's the poster for that. Slam Dance, starring Tom Hulce and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio. Um, it is directed by a guy named Wayne Wang, who was a 1980s way underground indie filmmaker, who then moved into Hollywood, did some rom-coms, some big Hollywood movies, but then also moves back and forth into these indie films. This is this weird in between. It's a film noir. It's a story about a guy who gets involved in the sinister doings because of a missing woman. He's a cartoonist. He's a newspaper cartoonist. He's got a wife and kid. His marriage is falling apart. He himself is falling apart. And what's fascinating about this movie, I could easily see hating this movie. It's very, very 1980s styled. Its texture and its style go all over the place. It keeps whiplashing between humor and dark noir thrills. The whiplash between comedy and empathy, between comedy and the just ridiculous, absurdist stuff, and truly dark and human stuff, is really amazing to me. Once again, like I said, many people who are either looking for a good noir or a good comedy are going to hate it because it's unbelievable in that sense. But at the same time, first of all, it's just gorgeous. It's just beautiful. Second of all, there are some just whacked out side characters and flourishes that are just great. Plot wise, it just does take some fabulous turns. And the other thing is Tom Hulce, who plays the lead. He first came to fame in Animal House. He was Mozart in Amadeus. Tom Hulce, his character is a guy with a ridiculous sense of the absurd, and he is constantly bursting into hysterical laughter during these dark scenes. Either you like it or you don't, but and it certainly could, it's a flaw. It's not believable, but it's to me amazing. The use of art, the use of visual art. He's an artist, and the cutting and the filmmaking. I just love it. Two more. Limbo by John Sayles. John Sayles is a remarkable independent filmmaker. Limbo is, when was this? 1990. Oh, once again, I believe it's 1990. Limbo, 1999. I apologize for getting the dates wrong. Limbo is starring David Strathairn, once again, Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, Chris Christopherson's in it. It's set in Alaska. And one of the things that John Sayles did during his career is he was very, very socially conscious. He made an amazing movie about a coal mining strike in the 1920s called Matewan. He made a movie about the 1920s baseball scandal called 8 Men Out. Anyway, John Sayles, he likes to take a place or a topic and get really into analyzing it socially, economically, structurally. So what he's doing is he's focusing on this town in Alaska, and he's looking at the different people who work there and live there, the different ways that people interact, the natives and the people who come up there for work. And at the same time, there's a thriller story about this guy's brother has gotten involved in drug trafficking and brings a dark criminal element to his life. And I don't want to give away too much, but I just want to say it is an amazing piece of work. Is it lectury in that people are definitely talking about, how the fish canneries work, and they'll have this dialogue scenes where they're complaining about it, but at the same time giving exposition. Yeah, it's a little talky, but at the same time, there's these great musical numbers because one of the characters is a woman who works as a musician in bars for the seasonal workers, and her teenage daughter. it's once again, it's trying to take all this stuff that the filmmaker is interested in and using a genre story in an unconventional way to really, really twist your mind, to really, really make you think about people and life and places. It's dynamite. Um, and the last one is called The Drop. Once again, oh man, I forgot to change all the dates. I used the same slide and I kept changing the title. 2014, The Drop. I have talked about this before. It is a wonderful little gritty crime thriller with Tom Hardy and James Gandolfini, Noomi Rapace. It's written by Dennis Lehane, who did Mystic River and Gone Baby Gone. It's a very small story about a guy who's a bartender in a bar in Brooklyn, who the bar is used by local mobsters as a drop. They take their illegal money and they leave it in the bar in order to launder it, and then they come get it. So it's about a robbery of this drop bar. It's magnificent. It is all about these 4 or 5 characters and their interactions in the course of a very short amount of time. Once again, very small time, very human. And the reveals, the depth of the character, especially Tom Hardy's character, just gorgeous. Slow burn build to an understanding of the story that you didn't really have until the end. And you're like, oh my God, this is fabulous. Anyway, those are the 9 movies. I will put them in the description after this is done so that you can have a reference. I will have the dates right in that. Okay, let's get some comments here. Ricky says, reminds me of Friday night at the video store. Yep, me too. I'm that old. Well, what were we going to watch? Let's try this one. Glad we did. Yes, exactly. In fact, most of these movies, that's how I saw them. I didn't see Report to the Commissioner in the theater at 1975. I did catch it on video. Many of these movies, I only discovered on video at some point because I was like, whoa, what is this? Yeah, it's very much my attitude. A Link says, I think Roots was the first TV miniseries and it aired in 1977. Yes, Roots was the first big one. There were some smaller ones. I can't remember when not Tinker Tailor, Beggar. There were a couple of Irwin Shaw adaptations, I believe. Anyway, the point is, yes, there were some small miniseries in the 70s. Roots was the one that really blew it open because it was phenomenal ratings success. So miniseries did start to build then. Fung says he will definitely add Juggernaut to my watch list for the week. I am watching 2 great films per day. Wow, good for you. That's not a bad thing. Wait, all of you, one thing that's very important. Don't ever watch instead of work. Always watch after work. Get the work done first. Do a little creative work and then watch and absorb and enjoy and explore. Robert Freeman says, Hard Day's Night was awesome. And that is certainly true. Hard Day's Night, of course, is a revolutionary bit of movie making. Broke open the concept of the 1960s freewheeling approach to filmmaking. I have this film on DVD and saw it 100 times. Which one? You have good taste in movies. Thank you. I hate Jackie Chan. Although I kind of like Jackie Chan. A Link says, "Oh, I know Slam Dance. Yeah, it is beautifully shot. It's gorgeous. It's wildly. It's inappropriately pretty." Okay. I thought you were saying the Japanese classic anime basketball movie when you said Slam Dance. I did not know there was one. Yeah, Slam Dance is way unknown and really interesting. It's unbelievable that I've never heard of any of these movies before this session. That is why I am doing this. because there are a lot of movies. There's too many. There's too many in the world. So yeah, now and then it doesn't hurt to pass on a couple of the neglected ones. That's the point of this. Movies that they're not the greatest movies. They all do have flaws, some more than others. But even at their most flawed, they're bringing a certain, like I said, an unexpectedness, a joy in the narrative, character-based twisting up of genres and playing with the formula. And for me, that's great. Is Animal House a movie? Or what are you talking about? Hi, Watson. Animal House is a movie. It's a famous movie from the 1980s. It started a whole genre of college and teen comedies. It was about a fraternity house with an ensemble of different storylines. It was a very broad comedy. It opened up a whole genre of comedy in the 1980s. Yes, Animal House. John Belushi was in it, and that made it a very big star. Amir Mokri was the director of photography on Slamdance and did a great job. Yes, absolutely. A couple that Ricky has not heard of. Cool. Where did you watch this movie? I've been searching for movies, searching about the MKV movies, and almost none of them are available on streaming here in Australia. Yeah, this is the problem. Like I said, these are neglected movies. These are hard to find. Either Amazon or iTunes or the Apple Plus store probably has most of them. I certainly know that a lot of them are on the Apple streaming service, the store. They're not streaming, you have to rent them. But most of these are rentable. I don't think any of them are currently not rentable, but what do I know? I'd add Dawn. Don't Look Now, Clute, and Time Bands. Yes, okay. Here's the thing. Yes, I definitely could add to this. The thing about Don't Look Now and Clute, which are among my favorite movies, is they're not really neglected. People know them. I would add, by the way, since we're doing Donald Sutherland, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the 1970s version with Leonard Nimoy and Jeff Goldblum, and Brooke Adams. I love Don't Look Now and Clute. They're close to my heart, but they're not as neglected. They're not as unknown as these. I wanted to try and do something where I was telling you things that you really, really probably haven't heard of. Can I write a movie about a girl? Hold on, let me get to that actually we can do that. Can I write a movie about a girl that mysteriously died in a police station and her father is determined to find out the truth and refused to believe that she said that suicide, like the police said? Well, certainly you can. And since I've just been telling you about a bunch of movies which are in fact neglected, but in which a character is trying to uncover the truth. Yeah, absolutely. Is it yeah, you certainly can write that. The real question will be what really happened and how do you get to it and what does it mean to the characters? I would strongly suggest you watch this movie Missing, which is very similar, about a father trying to understand what happened to his missing child. Is there a different mindset when you write a TV series pilot and a feature film script? Yes, there certainly is. Because, and I think I did a live stream about TV pilots. I will, if I did, I will put the link into the description about 10 minutes after we finish here. TV mindset. I can't remember if I did, but I think I did. Yeah, the basic difference with a TV and movie scripts are a TV script is trying to establish things but not conclude them. When you start a TV pilot, and this is tricky because there's two ways to write for TV. One is in which you establish the concept for a series, but you don't plan out the entire series. You say, I'm going to see where it goes. Sometimes you have a rough idea of where it's going to go, depending on how serialized it is. But the point about TV is that the main thing you're doing is establishing the characters. It's really, really about the characters and the world that they are in and the genre. And whatever the hook is of this series is what makes us say, oh, I want to see a thing about a high school chemistry teacher who becomes a drugs dealer. Or I want to see something about a mob boss in New Jersey who is having an emotional breakdown about his family and goes into therapy, which is The Sopranos. Um, each of these series, the point about a pilot is that you are trying to create the world and the essential hook, the essential reason that someone would want to see this story, but only give us the beginning, give us the hook. Mad Men. You establish the idea of this advertising agency in the 1960s. It's about the world of the 1960s. We understand that the lead guy has some dark secrets. We understand that there's the social, political, sexual politics of the office. And we understand that it's going to be about all that. And then we leave with a little hook about the main character, the fact that he's unexpectedly happily married, supposedly. That's the very end of the pilot. The point about a pilot is that you are hooking. You are not telling a whole story. In a feature, you got to tell the beginning, middle, and end. When you're done, you're done. There's nothing left. So that's a very, very different mindset. Juggernaut, yes. Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad, Norma. I love Juggernaut. Juggernaut to me is just so, like, every scene has something interesting about it. It's fabulously done. Carpe diem doom. Lehane is a great writer, very real and intense writing. No wonder a lot of his work has been chosen by legends for movies. This is true. His latest novel is another one of his Boston crime stories. Is phenomenal. Is just a beautiful writing. Gone Baby Gone is a great movie. Mystic River. I actually think the book of Mystic River is much better than the movie. I think the movie is a little, it's a wonderful movie, but it's a little stodgy in its filmmaking. Clint Eastwood can get sort of lazy sometimes as a filmmaker, but he gets amazing performances and he knew what the story was and he was willing to push it. So all of that is really, really cool. Okay. What's your favorite neglected TV series? Ooh, that's a great question. Neglected TV series. I would have to think about that. You know, actually, *Halt and Catch Fire* was really interesting. It's not my favorite, but *Halt and Catch Fire* came and went, but it's really cool. It's really interesting. I'll have to think of some others, but that one just off the top of my head. What should I do when I realize there are 30 characters in my screenplay? How to decide who to cut? Well, I would say the main thing you want to do with that is look at this video of mine, the 6 essential questions. Because the main thing about if you've got 30 characters is somebody is the main character in theory. Like, if not, you want to make one of them the main character, or a couple of them the main characters. Once you've made that choice, how to prioritize the other 25 becomes much easier, because you know, well, they don't have anything to do with this main story. They have to go. Or they are only supporting this main story. They only have 3 scenes in the main story. That's how you would do it. The important thing is to focus on who is the center of your story. Choose a character or a couple of characters and say, their story is the center of my story. The only way to make choices is to have some thing that you're choosing to say, this is the one I will not give up. That's really how you do it. You say, I want to end with this tragic or triumphant moment where this character gets or fails to get this thing. And that's the core of my story. Then you can start to prioritize who's helping that and who's not helping that. Nathan Dean says, I also watched French Connection for the first time. Explain to me that ending. The explanation to, or the ending of French Connection is William Friedkin is an ass. he's a jerk. William Friedkin was incredibly gifted at filmmaking and an incredibly annoying person who honestly just wanted to push people's buttons. And so the end of The French Connection is simply a story about the scene at the end of The French Connection is uselessly provocative. That's all I'll say. Don't want to spoil the ending of The French Connection, but I will spoil the fact that the ending of The French Connection is nearly meaningless. I don't believe it means anything. I believe it's just Friedkin wanting to say, "Ooh, isn't this cool?" That's honestly my belief. In Europe, sometimes art is a good source for old movies. That is true. European art films had a heavy influence on almost all of the movies that I just talked about. What I like is that the art film attitude of European and Asian films came into conflict with the conventional narratives of Hollywood, and when it works, sometimes it was simply an attack on convention, as with the French Connection. But what's really cool for me is when the art film freshness, the art film authenticity or artistic quality is used to approach a good, strong narrative. That's when I really love these. Okay, we're going to start to cool down on the questions, but Hasko, sorry to join late, and I totally missed the list, but we'll watch later. Did you mention the Korean I'm a Cyborg, but that's okay? No, I didn't mention it because I've never heard of it, but I now am curious about it. That's a great title for sure. My ideas are getting more bleak after obsessing with Martin Scorsese films. Should I stop watching his films? No. I mean, not if you, like, do what you like. If you're feeling those feelings, and, it's kind of bleak time at the moment. So therefore, I would say, do it if you want. Is it harder to sell bleak? Sometimes. The main thing is you have to really feel it. If you really feel it, do it. See what it gets you. How to keep every scene interesting, even when the scenes are transitional? A good question, and the answer is very simple. It shouldn't be just transitional. It should also be a scene. It should also have a dramatic action in which the characters are doing something. I would beg you to look at this video, Think in Scenes, and also this one. This one's really important to it. Dramatic action. Please look at those for a talk about this, because the idea is what gives things depth, what gives things texture and richness, is that they are not just one thing. In other words, if something is transitional, it should also be something else. Someone should be actually involved in their plot in the transitional scene. Otherwise, why do you want to bother with a whole scene? A transition can be done in so many ways. So the answer is, don't have a scene that's just expositional. Don't have a scene that's just transitional. Also think about what the people involved are accomplishing or failing to accomplish. Where does it fall in their story? You also might want to take a look at this one, building character arcs, because these are all where I talk about the idea that every scene should have an action. And by action, I don't mean some action, physical action. I mean that someone is trying to do something. And even in a transitional scene, I'm trying to figure out what a transitional scene would be. I mean, if it's just a transition, it doesn't need a whole scene. So what's the purpose of the transitional scene? Who's in it? Who's in the transitional scene? And what are they doing in their lives, in their story at that moment? Ideally, you have things be both transitional and part of the story. A TV pilot is Act 1. All the other episodes are Act 2. I have to disagree with you on that. I believe that the 3-act structure doesn't hold for a series. I think you have to think of it differently. Partly because the proportions get all out of whack. Partly also because the way that a series can stretch out. I mean, when you have 68 episodes, I think Breaking Bad was 68 episodes. When you have 40, 50, 60 hours of story, you don't want to be dragging out a single act. What happens is you get like a in some cases like a 7-act structure, because each season is essentially an act. There's no reason to stick to 3 acts. Shakespeare didn't use 3 acts. 3 acts was simply a convention that sort of worked out in the 19th century, in 19th century theater. And it just doesn't, the concept of beginning, middle, and end is 3 acts, but that doesn't really give a shape to a story if it's in 8 seasons. In that case, you've got a beginning and an end, but the actual proportions and the actual stages of the story are probably better broken into seasons. What percentage of time should a screenwriter spend watching films versus writing scripts? The answer is, it depends on your capacity for writing. Like if you can write 4 hours a day, then that's how much you should write. You should always write as much as you can. But then in your off hours is when you watch. That's really my point. If all you can do, if you're working a job and you only get 15 minutes to write at lunch when nobody's looking, then that's how much you write. If you have all day free, you're still not going to write all day. At least most people aren't. I can't. But if I get 4 hours a day, that's amazing. That's a big day, and that's good. So the answer is percentage of time is what you have available and what your system can sustain. My only point is never put writing second. Always put writing first, get it done, then you can reward yourself by watching. What do you think about watching foreign films? I think you should. I think that, of course, foreign films also includes, like, if you're not American, American films are foreign films. What I would say is try and watch as many disparate things as you can. You should have the focus on what you love and care about, what you work in if you do. But there's a decided advantage, like I said, to having a toolbox. Different cultures, different film aesthetics are worth exploring, if only so that you can use those things in your work. But it's also good to see that a lot of things you think, oh, you could never do X, Y, and Z, and then you see somebody do it and make it work. That's really valuable. It's a good tool to have. Oh yeah, Magic City. Thank you, Imogen. Magic City is a series that was canceled when it should have been. Also Party Down. I've never seen Party Down, but I liked Magic City a lot, and it is frustrating because it didn't end. There are some good series that got canceled before they concluded their stories. That's pretty brutal, but it does happen. And yes, Magic City, I quite liked Magic City. Movie with Jack Nicholson set in the Northwest. He's a retired cop obsessed with a criminal he couldn't catch. Very dark. Sound familiar? Yes, it is called The Pledge. It's based on a novel, a very dark. That is a very dark, artsy, inconclusive, grim, and fabulous movie. But it's small. That is a tiny story about obsession and futility. It's very dark and moody. It's great. Yeah. Loved Halt and Catch Fire. My vote, Freaks and Geeks. Yes, Freaks and Geeks is delightful. I like it a lot. Is it acceptable to have a sex scene in a screenplay? Yes. My screenplay is centered around a frat party, but I was afraid it would offend the reader if I put it in. The answer is it depends on what kind of audience you're going for. If you were trying to go for what they call a PG or G rating in America. In other words, there are certain things that are steered towards the family-friendly, young people, non-sex, non-violence storytelling. Then don't do it. Then imply it. But if you're going to do a frat party comedy, or I don't know if it is a comedy, but the point is, there's no reason not to have a sex scene in it. The question is, what's the value of it to the story? There's a movie called Wind River, which has a very dark revelation about sexual things. That's another really good little unknown movie, Wind River. Anyway, the answer is it appropriate? It's appropriate, it's acceptable within an adult story, within a story about the humor or sexiness or darkness of a frat party sex scene. No more questions, please. It Live by Night. I think I've read it and seen it. Yes, very remarkable. Interesting. Um, oh, art is a channel. I did not know that. I live in America and I didn't know about that. Have you ever watched Wong Kar-wai movies? Yes. I've never understood the appeal of his classic In the Mood for Love. In the Mood for Love is very art film. I like it. I don't love it. It is beautifully told. It is what I like about it, aside from the beautiful visuals, is its focus on an emotional tangle, on the emotional. It's entirely about the emotional bond that is disrupting these people's lives. I think it's a powerful message about the disruption of love, the disruption of romantic love. And I think that that's very powerful. So I like it. I don't love it the way other people do, but yeah. Park. Oh, really? I've never heard of it. Cool. What my character, but when my characters need to go to Texas from New York, should we have a scene of them in the plane? Not unless something happens in the plane. No. If you're in Texas and you want to go to New York, just cut to New York. Cut to them getting out of the plane or get to them getting out of a taxi with their luggage. You do not need to show them traveling. That's like saying, if I'm showing someone coming home from the store, do I need to show them taking their groceries, putting it in the car, driving home, and then unpacking them? No. You show them in the store, you show them at home. That is the magic of narrative. You can skip the parts that we don't have to watch every step. In your story, if you've got people going from Texas to New York, have a scene in Texas where they say, I'm going to New York. And then you cut to New York. There you go. You're fine. Okay. I tried analyzing my ongoing work and found out that I make stories where the main character's problem is eventually real to be caused by a minor thing done by minor characters, which I find interesting. I agree. I find that interesting too. Do it. Maybe they're not minor characters after all. No, I mean, yeah, you can. But I do think that if what your story is about the effect that little things have on us, and how people who are, quote, minor in your life can set all sorts of things going, cool. That's a great insight. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Imogen says, I just finished the first draft of my first one-act stage play, and I couldn't help feeling the imposter syndrome kicking in last night. Do mute it. The only thing you can do for imposter syndrome is keep going, and if you are going to be an imposter, just be a good one. Really, that's the best I can tell you, because many people have imposter syndrome. It is a fear. That's the thing to recognize. Think about what it is that you're afraid of when you're feeling like an imposter, because everyone's an imposter in that certain sense. And the key to it is, if you wrote the first act of a play, keep doing it. Experience in life will not make your imposter syndrome go away, but it will simply build up your imposterhood until you feel, well, at least I'm a legitimate imposter. That's my solution, is ask yourself, what is the fear involved in the imposter syndrome? And second of all, at very worst, what they say, fake it till you make it, or act as if you have faith and you will be given faith. In other words, even if you don't feel like you should do a thing, if you want to do the thing, try doing it. Try doing it despite the feeling. You can't always let those feelings run your life, because then you won't do anything. All right. Thank you very much, A-Link. Carnival, another neglected series. Yes, it's a very cool, interesting, and also, I believe, unfinished series. There's a bunch of series that simply didn't get finished. Treme. I really like Treme. It was by the guy who did The Wire, and it was a couple seasons, maybe 3 or 4 actually, set in New Orleans after Katrina. It was, once again, it's just examining a time and a place and a society. What's interesting about that one is they were never sure that they would get another season. So every season has sort of a conclusion, but then you pick up those story links again for the rest of them. It's a Treme. I like Treme a lot. Okay. So thanks a lot for my insights. My question is, should I approach an agent to sell my pilots? Yes, if you can get an agent to pay attention to you, sure. It is almost impossible to sell a pilot without an agent. So if you can get an agent, get one. Absolutely. You are welcome. You are welcome. You are welcome. Thank you, A-Link. Thank you all. It was great to see you. I appreciate you. And I will see you next week. And in the meantime, please go write something.